Hello everyone, welcome to Everything Arsenal, and this is the latest transfer news. The latest on Victor Osimhen. Napoli are lowering their demand for the striker, so it's no longer 120 million euros. We'll be talking about that. We'll be covering the latest on a potential move for Eze this summer. A lot of you have been asking about Obi, the young striker, 32 goals in 18 games, something crazy like that in the under-18 league. What's the latest on him? We have an update and also the latest on an Arsenal goalkeeper. But let's start with the big one, that is Victor Osimhen. What's the latest on him now? According to reports from Italy a couple of hours ago, Napoli are now lowering their demands for Victor Osimhen from his initial release clause. Napoli would be willing to listen to offers for around 85 million pounds, which is 100 million euros. So their release clause, his release clause is 120 million euros. And then if you drop it down to the new demands, it's 100 million euros. So that's 20 million euros less and 16 million pounds less. So if you're looking at it in pounds, it's now 85 million pounds. If it's in euros, it's 100 million euros. Still in the 100 million plus, but they've lowered it by 20 million euros. Now, I think that is proof. Like, instead, start hearing stories like that. That is proof that they're definitely not going to get 120 million euros. You've already made it clear, if they don't lower their demands, they're not going to sell him for 120 million euros. PSG are not going to pay that money. We've already had reports that he doesn't want to go to PSG. Chelsea are no longer in the race. Real Madrid don't want him. Barcelona nowhere in sight. And the only team that is currently being linked to Osimhen is Arsenal. And Osimhen is not being linked to Arsenal only because he's a bad player. No, it's because of that money. And we are hearing that Arsenal are not really ready to pay that 120 million euros, which is pretty obvious. Not because he's not a good player, because no one can afford that kind of money right now with all the FFP problems, all the potential of getting into trouble in terms of deducted points and all that. No one wants to get into that trouble, and paying 120 million euros, there's no one who's going to pay. Believe me, if Osimhen was like 60 million euros, a lot of teams would have wanted Osimhen by now. You'd have had at least 15 teams wanting Osimhen, but the reason it's not being wanted is because of the money that they're demanding. Now, that was the release clause. That is the release clause. But now, according to reports, they're lowering that release clause and they're saying, oh, no, forget about the release clause. Just give us 100 million euros and we'll give you the player. Now, who is more desperate? People say, I really need a striker. I really want a striker as well. I want us to keep on improving the team. But the question is the word desperate? Do you think Arsenal is desperate for a striker? Like, if Arsenal don't get a striker, like, they're completely finished. Now, even if you think so, there's no point of showing all the other teams that have strikers that you want that, yeah, we are desperate to get a striker. Oh my goodness. Yeah, we are ready to pay 150 million for Osimhen. No, you have to be calm. You have to approach the window like, now, you know what? We're okay. We just want a winger. We don't really need a striker. So the other teams know that, yeah, this Arsenal is not really desperate for a striker. So, let's just ask for 70, 80 million. Let's not ask over the top. But a couple of years ago, when you're trying to go for the likes of Vlahovic and all those guys, when they didn't really even have a striker at all, I don't even think Jesus was there at that time. Like, we were very desperate. Teams could ask us, like, nah, we are going to ask you here for a lot of money. If we didn't have Ryan Ramsdale right now and he went to Real Madrid for loaning and they're willing to sell, they tell us 100 million because they know we are desperate for a goalkeeper. But you have to show the market that you're not desperate for a certain position. And personally, I don't think we are desperate for any position. I want us to get 3 or 4 players. I want a midfielder for sure. I want a winger. I want a backup winger for Saka. I want someone up front for sure to keep on improving our team. And I don't know, if you want a defender who's available, who's great enough, that is absolutely good. But you can't show the rest of the market that you're desperate. A couple of seasons ago, Man United was showing that they are really desperate for a midfielder, and all the other teams were asking them for unbelievable prices because they know you're desperate and you have to pay that money. But for us, we can't show that we're desperate in the market, which I don't think we are anyway. But for the fans, some of you fans are kind of like desperate, like, oh my goodness, can we get a player? No, so you need to show that you're not desperate. Now, for Osimhen and Napoli have already made it clear that they don't really want him. I don't really think he wants to stay there. The new manager doesn't really want him. The new manager is happy to get Lukaku and get rid of Osimhen. There's been problems with Osimhen's attitude the last couple of months, and we were told that in terms of Napoli getting players this summer transfer window, they have to get money, and the first thing they need to do is to sell Victor Osimhen. So for Napoli to buy players for Antonio Conte, they need to get rid of Osimhen. And if they stick with the 120 million euros, no one is going to pay. Even if someone eventually pays, that will be paid like in August, like 31st, the deadline day or something like that. And that will not give Napoli enough time to go and buy players. And that wouldn't work for them. They didn't have a great season in the league. They're trying to get back to the top level that they were a couple of seasons ago. They need to get other players, and the new manager Antonio Conte is very demanding. So he would want his players by June, by July, very quickly. And the only way they can do that is by starting to sell Victor Osimhen and then using that money elsewhere. So they're lowering their demand to 100 million euros from 120 million euros. In pounds, which is what ASO will work with. Obviously, Italy, they work with a different currency, but let's work with 85 million because Arsenal is in England. So 85 million pounds. Do you think that is good money to pay for Osimhen? Or do you think that is still too high? We did a video Cozy a couple of days ago breaking down everything in terms of Osimhen, the positives, the negatives. He can score goals. He probably can get you 20 plus goals. I wouldn't even use the word probably. I think if we give him 35, 36 games in the Premier League, he definitely scores 20 plus goals. He's always done that. Last season he scored 17. It wasn't a great season for him at Napoli, but he still scored goals. If we give him the chances that we create with Odegaard and Trossard and Saka and all that, he will get goals for sure. Now, the only worries are things like actually, before I go to the wires, he can also score 10 games in a row. He can score 20 plus goals. He can take a bit of pressure away. He can take like once, if you get one opportunity in a game, he can take it. So he's going to bring a lot of positivity. And in terms of signing someone like an Osimhen, other teams will be like, wow, these guys have signed Osimhen. Arsenal are now dealing on a different level of, players that they're targeting. They're no longer targeting, players from Sheffield United. They're now looking at players like Osimhen and Gyökeres and, Eze and players like that. Teams will start respecting you even more. But there's some strikers you'd sign and teams would be like, nah, that's just a random striker. I don't really care. But if you sign Osimhen, that will definitely take you to the next level. But then on the other side, there's definitely negatives, a couple of injuries here and there. Attitude problems. We've had that, people have asked why Napoli very happy to sell him. What is the problem there? Argument to the Nigerian manager, going on Instagram Live and talking about it. All that is a bit... people describe it as I saw someone describe it as babyish, basically childish. That's the word, childish. So you don't really want that around the team. If he sits on the bench and Jesus plays tomorrow, will he go and do an Instagram Live and complain about it? You wouldn't really want that, and we definitely know that Ateta doesn't want that in the team. That's one reason That's one reason Aubameyang is not playing in the team, and that's one reason Tony is not going to become an Arsenal player because of not getting along with that in terms of attitude and all that. Atta wants the whole team to be together in terms of spirit and culture and all that. And Osimhen, the money was the other problem. But if they lowered their wage, they lowered their asking price to 85 million pounds, do you think that's worth it despite all the other things? I mean, I'm sure players like Saka and Odegaard, if Osimhen came into the team, they'd be, over the moon. Even if we ignore style of play, that's the one worry that we also talked about, style of play and everything. Will he, fit right away? Osimhen would want a quick pass in behind, run to it and try to score. But the way Arsenal play, we build up, through almost every single player, Odegaard, Rice, Saka, Ben White. Maybe the ball is not going to get to Osimhen as quickly as it used to get to him at Napoli, but he'll still get 2-3 chances per game. So if he does take those chances, he scores the goals, as simple as that. So according to reports from Italy, that is 85 million. Now let's go to the reports that we saw a couple of days ago as well. Victor Osimhen has doubts on joining PSG. The Nigerian remains keen on a Premier League move. Arsenal are showing the strongest interest in the 25-year-old. So he wants to move to the Premier League, and how many teams in the Premier League want him and need him? Man City, definitely, they have Haaland. They don't need Osimhen. Liverpool, I was thinking maybe, you never know. Maybe a Nunes could go and then they bring in someone like this, but I don't know. They have a new manager. Will Osimhen want to go to, a new project? He might. I don't know. But Liverpool do have a striker, Nunes, that they bought recently. Jota can play there. In terms of Chelsea, they're the first team that wanted him. I actually thought if it's not PSG or Madrid, he might end up at Chelsea, but Chelsea pulled out and they don't want to pay that wage structure and all that. If you look at Tottenham, definitely not. If you're looking at Man United, they already have Højlund, so that leaves us by ourselves, actually, on that list. I don't think any other team in the Premier League could afford him. I don't think it would be incredible if someone like an Osimhen ended up at Aston Villa, then it might start ranking them as a top 6 club. If you ended up at a team like that, that would be crazy. But it's only Arsenal there. But again, we need people to be patient. Just can't expect it to be done by tomorrow. I don't know what other details they're going to go through. They have to look at the wages and all that, but it's a good start. When it's lowered from 120 million euros, that's a good start. I think for me, I was saying around 80 million pounds. I think that's a good fee, because when they bought him from Lille, they actually bought him for more than 60 million. So they have to make a profit from that. If they sell them for 60, 65 million, they're basically not making any profit. They actually did sign him for a lot of money from Lille. If they had signed him for, I don't know, 20 million, they would have been okay with selling him at 70 million and making a 50 million profit. But considering they bought him for more than 60 million, they have to make some sort of profit. So that's the latest on Osimhen. Let me know what you guys make of that. Next up, let's go to Eze. Olise has already moved on to Bayern Munich. Will another Crystal Palace player be on their way out? And could they be on their way to Arsenal? Let us see. This is the latest from Alex Goldberg on Eze. Everyone at Arsenal loves Eberechi Eze, and they view him as someone who can play left wing or left central midfield. However, as Palace want 50 million pounds of the 60 million clause paid up front, it remains to be seen whether Arsenal will pursue him at that price. So he has that clause of 60 million, and Palace want that 50 million up front. So do you think Eze is worth that 50 million pounds? I think he is. 4 seasons in the Premier League. Last season, he had his best season in terms of goal scoring ever, like in the Premier League, since he joined them around, is it 2020? He's been there for 4 years. I definitely know that. 4 seasons with Crystal Palace. Last one, he scored 11 goals. And he was on fire. Like, he was one of the reasons why Crystal Palace were just scoring goal after goal after goal. The last 10 games, they were absolutely incredible. Him, Olise, Mateta. And not only was Eze scoring goals, he was also creating them. He's very good at crossing. He takes set pieces. He scores. He can score from a free kick. He takes corners. I've seen him taking a couple of penalties before. Like, when you have him in that midfield position, maybe that Odegaard role or next to Odegaard, like the way he floats that midfield position is great. Like, he can pick up the ball like from a party or right, and then just run with it through the midfield, either create a chance or shoot the ball from outside the box. He can also do that. He can shoot the ball from outside the box. He has a lot of qualities, as for sure. He's only 25 years of age, and one of the reasons that he has actually been rewarded for being such a good, having a great season. I'm all over the place there. Yeah, he's been rewarded for having such a great season by being picked up for England. I don't think he's going to play too many games, unfortunately, but he has been picked up for England. I think he came on in the first game or second game. I think he came on in the second game for England alongside Watkins, and he's just a very good player. He's a very good player. Whoever ends up with someone like an Eze, he would be very good. Like Olise going to Chelsea, I didn't want that to happen because I knew he would improve them. Someone like an Eze, if I had he's going to Tottenham, I'd be like, oh, Eze, Maddison, if all of them stay fit, they can create a lot of chances there, in that midfield, whoever is playing striker. I mean, if you told Osimhen, you don't want to go to Tottenham, he says no. And then you tell him, listen, Eze is there and Maddison is there. They're going to be creating the chances for you. On top of that, Son is on the left side. He'll be like, listen, yeah, I see why. And Eze is the same. I think, if he goes there and he's told, listen, you're going to play with Maddison and you're going to play alongside Son as well, he can be like, yes, I don't mind. So I don't think he'd say no to Tottenham in terms of moving from Crystal Palace. Now, another thing that is going for us, he actually used to play for Arsenal, he used to be in the Arsenal Academy back in the day from 2006 to 2011. He was actually an Arsenal Academy player. So should we bring him back? The only worry about Eze, it's not a big worry as like for, a Tomiyasu or Partey or an Osimhen or, a Neto. Is not like injury prone. But last season, he missed a few games, 5 or 6 games through a muscle injury. But that's it, really. The only other injury he had was back in 2021, an Achilles injury that kept him out for 26 games. Apart from that, I don't think he's injury prone. So I don't even necessarily think it's a worry. If he stays fit, he will deliver for you. I think it's the kind of player who will bring in, he'll bring more quality to your team for sure. And another player who can bring, versatility, can play on the left side, as we've been told, the left wing sometimes. He can play in the number 8 position. The only thing it needs to improve at Arsenal is if you're playing the number 8, especially in a game where I don't think you can play Odegaard and Eze against Man City away. together. Odegaard will do defensive work, but I'm not sure about Eze in the number 8. Our number 8 position, you need to do a lot of attacking and a lot of defending. That's why you see Rice, interceptions, tackles at the top, goals, assists at the top. Like, you need to do both of them. Xhaka as well, before he left, goals, assists, interceptions, tackles in midfield. You have to be good at both. I don't think Eze is the best tackler or interceptor in midfield and best at defense. Like, in terms of aerial ability, is not good. So if a ball is hit in the middle, is up against Sushek, it's not a good thing. But in a game where you're going to have a lot of position and you're going to create a lot of chances and going to get a lot of spaces, not too many spaces, and you need to open them up. If you have an Odegaard and an Eze, that would be incredible. So Eze for 50 million, would you take him for 50 million? Let me know in the comments. Next up, let's talk about Obi, the next Victor Osimhen. That's what we're actually. Before we go to Obi, would you want to convince New Crystal Palace to take Nelson, let's say, swap deal, and then you give them like 20 million? That's another thing I also forgot to mention with Osimhen. There were talks about them wanting Tomiyasu or Smith Rowe in a swap deal. Could you tell them, listen, okay, 55 million now, plus Smith Rowe or Nketiah, whoever they want? Would you do that? Personally, for me, I don't want Tomiyasu to go anywhere. Smith Rowe, I'm happy to keep him, but if it's helping us in terms of getting another player that's in a position that we really, really need, then we are Arsenal fans. We are not player fans. We have to move on as a club eventually. But I'd want Smith Rowe to stay. But if you're telling me Nelson or Eddie in a swap deal and they want them, I wouldn't really mind that. So let me know about that. But the next Osimhen, if you don't get Osimhen, we already have the next Osimhen. Should we keep him? A lot of you have been asking about Obi, and this is the latest on him. Bayern Munich are pushing to sign Chido Obi Martin from Arsenal. This is from Fabrizio. Arsenal have already made their new contract proposal too for the young striker. So we already have our contract offer on the table, so that is good. So it's up to the player now in his entourage if they want to stay or if they want to move on. Now, a lot of youngsters have moved on recently. Dewberry, Walters, Okonkwo, a lot of them have moved on recently. Obi is a player that I definitely want to keep. Like the scoring 9 goals and 7 goals and hat-tricks on his debut, all that is absolutely incredible. And at 16, you can see him like in the next 2-3 years, breaking through and becoming an incredible player. And we wouldn't want that to happen at Bayern Munich, like for Gnabry. No, we wouldn't want that to happen over there. So I'm hoping that he chooses to stay at Arsenal. The thing is, it's not like Arsenal by blood, like we got him from a different country and a different team. So he hasn't been here like since he was 5 or 6 years of age. So maybe he's not that committed in terms of Arsenal, but he had a very good season. Hopefully that boosts him and is talked to and is convinced to stay. And let's see what happens with that. But at the moment, Bayern Munich have their offer on the table and Arsenal have their offer on the table. So let's hope that he chooses to stay at Arsenal. And he can be the next, the next Saka. If he comes through and becomes like the next Saka, and this time he's a striker, that would be absolutely incredible. Lastly, Karl Hein. What's the latest on Karl Hein? Now, Arsenal have reported that we are delighted to announce that Karl Hein has signed a new contract with the club. That is, I don't know how to feel about this one. It was either between him or Okonkwo. I don't mind him staying at all, but the question is he going to be the second choice goalkeeper or the third choice goalkeeper? Are we going to keep Ramsdale? Are we going to sign another goalkeeper as well as keep Raya on top of that? So it's an interesting one, but congratulations to Karl Hein. We were told that you want to keep him, and we've managed to keep him, convinced him to stay. So that is pretty good for him. So next next season, let's see how many chances he's going to get. Hopefully, he does get at least 1 or 2 games. During preseason, he might get 1 or 2, depending on how far Raya goes in at the Euros. But let's see what happens there. Let me know what you make about everything we've talked about. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch up with you on the next one.